So ready na ba kayo? We'll start. So we're going to discuss module number 2. So I hope you've done your readings before attending this class. Okay, so the first module that we have discussed and finished was about the general principles of taxation. Okay. By the way, do you see my screen? My PowerPoint presentation?
Yes po.
Yes po.
Good, good. So, but our subject is about income taxation. No? So after the general principles, which was module number 1, we're now going to focus on income taxation. Okay. So before anything else, sa income taxation, we will discuss first its basic concepts here in module number 2. Okay. So this is very important. So this will serve as foundation of your knowledge no, sa income taxation. So you have to pay particular attention dito sa topic na to. So that sa mga susunod, mas madali kayo maka-relate. Kasi ito yung basic concepts. If you have good understanding of basic concepts, the rest of the topic will be more relatable. Compared kung hindi nyo nadaanan yung basic concepts. Okay? So, in this module, we'll be covering the following. So, number 1, the definition of income tax. Second, definition of income. So, what is income really? No? Take note, class, your financial accounting defines income according to accounting standards. Okay. Now, that definition is different. Okay, pagdating sa taxation. Kasi in taxation, we follow the taxation rules, not the accounting standards. Okay? So, merong difference yung dalawa. No? Kaya huwag kayong malito kung bakit sabihin mo later, parang iba ang pagkakaintindi ko sa income. No? So, iba kasi ang income sa accounting, iba naman sa taxation. Okay? So, for this subject and for taxation purposes, we have to follow the rules of taxation when it comes to definition of income. So, that should be clear, no? Kasi tandaan nyo, kung walang income tax. Okay? So, that's very basic concept. The third that we'll discuss is will determine when is income taxable. Okay? So, kailan ba siya taxable? So, that's very important kasi that defines kung kailan ka magbabayad, kung kailan ka liable to income tax. Okay? So, the fourth is we'll discuss yung different test kung kailan earned yung income. Okay? So, that's actually a very contentious issue sa reality. So sabi ng BIR, may income ka, taxable ka. So sabi mo naman, hindi naman income yan. So ganto. So nagtalo na kayo kung, nag-argue na kayo kung may income ka ba or wala. No? So there are tests that you can apply to determine whether you earned an income or you have not. Okay? So that's very important as well. So we'll discuss also the different income tax systems. Okay? So number 6, we'll focus on the Philippine income tax system. So we'll discuss the features of the Philippine income tax law. Okay? Number 7, the criteria in imposing income tax. Number 8 is the types of Philippine income tax. So the kinds of taxpayers in number 9. So number 10, gross income versus taxable income. So the two are different. Okay? Makikita nyo, class, ang significance ng difference nitong dalawa, gross income versus taxable income, sa mga susunod na modules natin. So it's very important that you distinguish these two terms, gross income versus taxable income. Number 11, we'll discuss the classification of income according to source. Yung tinatawag natin last time na situs of taxation. And finally, the unallocated expenses. So what do you do with these unallocated expenses? Okay. So there are 12 items that we're going to discuss in this module. So are you ready, class?
Yes
So
po.
Yes po.
it's important that we are on the same page sa topic na to. Kasi I really want you to understand fully the basics of taxation. Kasi para hindi kayo mahirapan sa mga susunod na modules. Okay? If you mess up yung topic na to, that will affect the succeeding modules. No? So don't mess up this module, okay, or topic. Okay? So let's take time to discuss. Although mukhang madali lang to, pero there are, you should have deep understanding. Okay? So number one, ang definition ng income tax. So ang income tax ay tax sa yearly profits. Yan. Okay? So yearly profits. So para siyang income statement na normally yearly ang pag-prepare. So ang income tax, ini-impose yan yearly. Kaya pag in-assess ka ng BIR for liability for income tax, BIR will tell you kung what year ina-assess yung liability mo. Because the liability for income tax is determined every year. So it's a yearly tax. Okay? May ibang tax class na hindi siya yearly. Quarterly. So that's different. And we'll not focus on that. No? Okay? Pero for income tax, that is a yearly assessment. Okay? So yearly siya. So when you have income, you have to determine kung anong year ba to related. Okay? So yan. So arising from property, profession, trade, office, or whatever, no? Whatever kung saan man siya arising from, no? So it's a direct tax, meaning it cannot be shifted, okay, to another. Hindi katulad class na na-discuss natin last time na value added tax. Sa VAT, ang nagre-remit ng VAT kay BIR ay yung grocery store, the seller. Pero the seller, the grocery store can shift sa buyer or consumer yung VAT. So pag punta mo ng grocery store at bumili ka doon, so kasama sa binayaran mo yung VAT. So the grocery store shifted to you the burden of value-added tax. But for income tax, it cannot be the case. No? For income tax, it cannot be the case. So si Meralco, meron siyang income tax liability sa kanyang yearly profits. And Meralco cannot tell you na you'll be the one to shoulder the income tax. BIR will go to Meralco to assess Meralco's income tax and not to you. Okay, so it cannot be shifted. Okay, so it's a direct tax, no? Notice, ang income tax ay excise tax. So meaning, it's levied upon right of a person to receive income. Okay? Remember class, ang sabi ko sa inyo before, ang tax pwede siyang sa property. Okay? Pwede siyang sa person. Pwede siyang sa excise. Okay? So ang income tax ay dito sa excise. At ang ibig sabihin ng excise ay privilege or right. Okay? Income tax is not a property tax. Okay? Income tax is not a property tax. Income tax is not a tax on a person. Okay? So ano ang income tax? Income tax is a tax on your right to earn income. Okay? That is therefore excise tax. So remember that income tax is an excise tax. It's not a property tax. It's not a tax on the person, but it's on your right, no, to earn income. Okay? Matanong ko lang sa inyo, so you answer this para malinaw. Ang tao ba automatic na may karapatan na kumita. Ang isang tao ba ay inherently may right? Nung pinanganak ba siya, natural ba sa kanya na, or inborn ba sa kanya yung karapatan na kumita? Okay? Magkaroon ng profit. So what do you think? What's the answer? Is it inherent to a person? Sabi ni Eunice, yes daw. Okay? Well, how about others? Okay, so puro yes. If that's the case, let me ask you another question. Paano kung nakatira ka sa North Korea? Okay? Paano kung nakatira ka sa North Korea? So for example, yung alaga mong baka ng anak. Siyempre ng baka din. No? Hindi naman iba yung papanganak mo. So yung, siyempre, yung additional na baka, okay? Kita mo yun. No? Profit mo yun. So, ikaw ba ang may karapatan doon or yung gobyerno ng North Korea? North Korea is a full communist country. So unfortunately, mapupunta yun sa gobyerno. Okay? So ang mga tao sa North Korea, wala silang karapatan doon. It's controlled entirely by the government. Okay? So kung pinanganak ka sa North Korea, unfortunately, wala kang karapatang kumita. So it so happened in the Philippines na ang sistema natin is different. We are a democratic country following capitalism ideology. Okay? So, binigyan tayo ng government ng karapatan na kumita. Pero sabi ng government, since binigyan kita ng karapatan, I'm going to get my share dun sa profit mong yun. So that's therefore the income tax. Okay? So that's the story. No? So therefore, ang income tax is a tax on your right to earn profit. So it's an excise tax rather than property tax, rather than a tax on the person. Okay? It's a tax on your right. Okay? So let me proceed. So I hope that's clear, yung point na yan. No? So definition of income. Income is the flow of wealth. It's not a mere return of capital. So therefore, income is different from capital. Okay? At ang tinatax ay yung income ng income tax, hindi yung capital. So ang difference ng dalawang to, so income is the flow of wealth during a definite period of time, while the capital is the fund or the property existing at that point. Okay? Income is the service of wealth, while capital is the wealth itself. So income is subject to tax, capital is not. Kumbaga, income is the fruit, and capital is the tree. Okay? So you distinguish the two. So ang tinatax class ay yung income rather than capital. So what is income again? It's flow of wealth. It's the fruit of your labor. Okay? It's the fruit, no? So kailan ang income taxable? So kailangan daw, there's really income. So meaning may gain, may profit, and not simply return of capital. Okay? So pag capital mo yan at hindi naman nanganak yan ng pera, ng other properties, wealth pa rin yun, capital pa rin yun, BIR should not be taxing that for income tax. Okay? Yung property na yan, no? Yung capital na yan. Okay, so dapat received na yung income or accrued or already realized during the year. Okay? So, tapos hindi siya exempt from income tax. So, these are the three Okay, the three conditions when the income becomes taxable. So I want you to memorize it by heart. No? So kailan ba nagiging taxable yung income? So first, kailangan merong income. Kailangan may flow of wealth. Pangalawa, dapat realized na siya. Okay? So kung hindi man realized, it should have been accrued or already received. So pangatlo ay hindi siya dapat exempt for the income to be subject to income tax. Okay? So let me illustrate with you the first illustration, kung taxable ba siya or hindi. Recovery of damages. This is the compensation for injury. Okay, so kunwari, in an accident, knock on wood, no? Something happened. Okay? So, may compensation na binigay sa'yo, no? Or you have recovered. So what is this? Taxable or non-taxable? Is this flow of wealth? Is there flow of wealth?
None
Dito?
po.
So this one is non-taxable. Okay? So wala namang gain, that's right. No? So in fact, you're just being compensated for what you have lost. There's really no additional thing na nangyari. No? Pangalawa, you recover the damages, but this is pertaining to your lost income. Okay, what do you think, plus? Is this taxable or non-taxable? This one is correct. So taxable yet. Okay. Very good, very good. Pangatlo, recovery of items previously deducted from gross income. This one is about tax benefit rule. So notice, nabawasan, na-deduct na siya dati from your income. But you recovered this. So para siyang recovery ng bad debts. So nung ni-write off dati, na-reduce yung taxable income mo. When you recover it, since na-reduce yung dati mong income, this time, dapat ay taxable siya. Okay? The next is forgiveness of indebtedness. So the effect here is the entire transaction reduces the purchase price of property acquired. This one is non-taxable. So that this just reduce your cost dun sa property. There is really no flow of wealth. Okay? Next one, forgiveness of indebtedness. Yun pala ang stockholder siya. And it's equivalent really to dividend distribution. What do you think? So that's correct. Very good. That's taxable. Forgiveness of debt, sumunod. Pero this one is an exchange of a service performed. So there's really an exchange, no? So there's really flow of wealth here. So that's taxable. How about income derived from illegal business or gain? So kunwari, mga drug dealer, snatcher. So they earned income, di ba? From doing the illegal activities. So that's taxable. Okay? So ang batas natin sa income tax, tinatax niya lahat, kahit ano pang source niyan, whether legal or illegal. Okay? So all the more nga na dapat i-tax ng malaki ang illegal to discourage such crime. No? Okay, so very good. No? At least you have the idea now what's income, what's not. Okay? And don't forget the three conditions. Ha? So kailangan, there's really income and not simply capital. Pangalawa, realized. It may be accrued or received na, no? Basta realized. And third is hindi siya exempt. Okay? Now, let's have illustration number 2. So this is about increase in the value of property. What we have here is Mr. Castillo, Filipino citizen or resident. Bumili daw siya dati ng lupa sa Makati noong 1970. Yan, okay? For 1 million pesos. Okay? In 2022, so that's roughly more than 50 years, not 52 years. Ang lupang yan, which remained undeveloped and idle, so tumaas na yung market value, it's now 20 million. So if you were Mr. Castillo, medyo happy ka naman kasi nag-appreciate na yung property mo by 19 million. So from 1M to 20M. Okay? So Mr. Ayala, another Filipino citizen, is very much interested in the property. And he made you an offer. Nabibili niya talaga ng 20 million. Although the assessor of the city government of Makati, ang assessed valuation niya lang ay 10 million pesos. So if you were Mr. Castillo, are you liable already for income tax in 2022 based on the offer to buy by Mr. Ayala? So what do you think? So sige, sino ba nag-raise ng hand first? Hindi ko nakita. Micaela, sige, ikaw na, Micaela. Please.
Po, hindi pa po siya liable sa income tax since wala naman po siya realized income and hindi po siya complete yung transaction. It is just a mere offer po from Mr. Ayala.
Okay, so very good, very good. So the keyword, as Micaela said, is hindi pa siya realized. Okay? It's just a mere offer, no? Okay? So hindi pa siya liable, Mr. Castillo is not liable. So it's not realized, okay? So magkakaroon lang ng gain talaga na realized doon if the transaction is already complete. Okay? Pero question, follow-up question. Let's say talagang may transaction na. Let's say talagang may transaction na. They already executed deed of sale. Yun, may transaction na. Sold na talaga. Okay? Pero, hindi pa nakolekta ni Mr. Castillo ang 20 million. Pwede bang taxable na yun or hindi pa rin? Remy?
Yes po, kasi sabi po doon kahit accrued lang po, pasok na po siya sa income tax.
So, very good, no? Ang tanong ko naman is kung pwede nang taxable. So, the right answer should be yes. Pwede na siyang taxable. Okay? So, di ba, ang realized, hindi naman kailangan received talaga, no? Pwede siyang accrued. At remember, in your accounting, the accounting of income, pwedeng accrual basis or pwedeng cash basis. So, pwede na siyang taxable. It depends on the accounting method na in-employ ni taxpayer. Okay? So, pero pwede rin hindi kung talagang hindi pa nakolekta and you're following installment basis, which is cash basis. Okay? Pero since my question is kung pwede na, so pwede na. Okay? Kung accrual basis siya. Okay? So, very good. Okay? Let's discuss this one. Ano ang mga test para malaman mo kung earned na yung income? Class, ito yung dilemma sa totoong buhay. Sometimes, tingin mo may income na, pero tingin naman ng ibang ng BIR, ng ibang colleagues mo, wala pang income. So it's really, a judgment call, kumbaga, kung may income na or wala pa. Okay? So it helps you to make your judgment correct if you know yung mga test na to. Okay? So how do you test kung earned na ba yung income or hindi ba? So there are tests. Number one is yung realization. Yung diniscuss natin kanina, kung kailan siya realized. Okay? Next is yung right of claim. Okay? Kumbaga meron ka ng ownership dyan. You have the command and control na of the property. So you earned it already. Okay? You earned it already. Okay? So minsan, alam nyo class, sa accounting, unearned pa siya. Pero sabi ng taxation, doctrine of right of claim. Okay? Since you have the control of it already, income na yun. Kahit sa accounting is hindi pa siya earned. So you have to be careful, no? In establishing kung may right of claim ka na or wala pa. Okay? So next, economic benefit theory. So, kumbaga, pinapakinabangan mo na yung property. So whether sa accounting, income na siya or hindi pa, sa taxation, is income na yan. Okay? Ganun ka straightforward sa taxation. Pang-apat na test is yung severance test. Usually, para maka-earn ka ng income, it's an exchange. You give something out for you to receive the income. Pag na-sever mo na or nawala na sa'yo, nag-give up mo na talaga yung dapat mong i-give up sa isang exchange. Then, you have an income. Okay? Severance test. Then, income from whatever source. So, meaning to say, anything that you have benefited from whatever source it may be, that's income. Okay? So, and the last one is all events test. We'll discuss later kung anong ibig sabihin. So, there are 6 tests na you can apply for you to determine if the item is an income na or hindi pa. At pag income na yan at pumasa yan dito sa test na yan, that is taxable. Kahit ang accounting nyo sa PFRS is hindi pa siya income. Unearned pa siya or hindi pa siya kailangan i-accrue or i-recognize. But that's accounting. That is different. Okay? We're not following accounting rules dito. For taxation, we have to follow the taxation rules. Okay? So you have to bear in mind this 6 test. Okay? So pagka merong tanong, income na ba or hindi pa, so this 6 test will help you answer that question. Okay? So the first one is realization principle. Income na ba or hindi pa? So depende kung realized na or hindi pa. So realized na kung the earning process is complete or virtually complete. Okay, an exchange has already taken place. Okay? So, yung mga advances, normally ang treatment natin, hindi siya revenue. Ingay ng anak ko eh. So may kasama tayo sa lecture, no? So by the way, ang advances ay hindi pa siya income. Kasi the earning process is not yet complete. Diba? Hindi pa siya realized. Okay? So doon sa example natin kay Mr. Castillo kanina, for example, nagbayad na si Mr. Ayala, pero refundable naman pala in advance, so hindi pa yung income kasi the process is not yet complete. I'm emphasizing kasi refundable pa. Take note, refundable pa. Although na-collect mo na, hindi pa yun realized kasi hindi pa complete yung earning process. Refundable pa siya. Okay? Stock dividends are not income kasi hindi naman talaga nagkaroon ng exchange. It's a stock dividend. You merely receive additional number of shares. Okay? So are we good with the realization principle?
Yes.
So kailan realized, class? The earning process is complete and the exchange has already taken place. So memorize. Now, so taxation, merong concept ng constructive receipt. Receipt na rin to, even if it is not actual. So dalawa ang terms na ginagamit sa receipt sa taxation. Could be actual or could be constructive. But even if it is constructive receipt, it is already considered as a receipt. Okay? So yung actual, merong physical transfer of consideration, possession, actual receipt of cash. Constructive receipt is na-credit na sa account mo, segregated in your favor, okay? And you don't have limits, no, or conditions to using that, okay, credit, okay? So these are the examples of constructive receipts. So dineposit sa bank account mo without restrictions. Collected na yan. Notice of debtor to offset a debt, and you have accepted it as a seller. Transfer of amounts retained by the payer to the account of the contractor. Okay? Interest credited on savings bank deposits. So matured interest coupons, although not yet collected. Dividends applied against the debt of a stockholder. Undistributed share in profit of a partner in a GPP. GPP is General Professional Partnership. Okay? So intended payment deposited in court. So consignation. Let me just charge my laptop kasi low-bat na siya. First test, realization. So kailan realized? There are two conditions. The earning process is complete and the exchange has already taken place. Faith, what do you mean?
Ay, hindi. Masagot po sana ako, sir.
Ano ibig sabihin ng answer na yun?
yung the exchange has already taken place po. Kulang lang
Taken
po.
place. Okay. Akala ko taken to PNL.
Sorry.
Kasi kung taken to PNL, that's not going to be according to tax rules. Parang according to accounting rules yan. So, taken place. No?
Apo, taken place po.
Although PNL and income sa tax usually coincide, but not always. So don't follow yung rule nyo sa accounting. Okay? So good. Okay, next part. Right of claim. So, ibig sabihin ito, merong doctrine of ownership, command or control. You have income and you don't have restriction as to its disposition. Okay? Wait lang. I give you an example kanina. Si Mr. Castillo, binayaran na siya ni Mr. Ayala. Kaso, refundable pala ang payment na yun. So I asked you kanina, or rather, I told you kanina, taxable na ba yun or hindi pa? What's the answer kanina? So, Patricia?
Ano po sir, non-taxable po since hindi pa po complete yung yung payment and refundable pa po siya. So definitely non-taxable po.
So very good. So hindi siya taxable dahil refundable pa. Hindi pa na-meet yung realization principle. Okay? Pero what if yung payment na yon is hindi na pala refundable? And if you were Mr. Castillo, you're not bound anymore to return it, whether mag-proceed yung transaction or hindi magtuloy. No? You can use it for whatever purpose you want. You can use it for vacation or buy something. No? So what do you think? Yung lupa ay nasa iyo pa rin, Mr. Castillo. Pero binayaran ka na ni Mr. Ayala. And yung 20 million na binayad niya is hindi na refundable. O kahit man lang down payment, kunwari 1 million, hindi na refundable. Taxable na ba or hindi pa rin? Alisa? That's taxable. Okay. Don, taxable. Anyone na pwedeng gusto mag-explain kung bakit taxable na siya? Alisa, please.
Sir, kasi kaya po tingin kong taxable kasi po kahit po hindi nabigay yung building po na binayaran, income pa rin po sa kanya yun.
Kasi income na talaga, no? So that's right, that's right. So I hope the second principle will help you. Kasi it now falls under the right of claim doctrine. Kumbaga income na kasi siya eh. Wala nang restriction. Okay? So kahit hindi pa talaga siya realized kasi wala pa namang exchange na nangyari, that's already taxable. Okay? Kasi it might not be realized pero it's already an income. It passed on the test ni right of claim doctrine. Okay? Pero sa accounting, liability pa rin yun, di ba? Unearned pa rin yun. Advance payment pa rin yun. Kaya for taxation, yes, there's flow of wealth already. No? So, kaya for taxation, follow the rules of taxation. Okay? Now, should it later appear na yung taxpayer was not entitled to the money, then by the time na binalik niyo yun, entitled naman siya to deduction. Okay? Pero since non-refundable na nga, then talagang income. Pero kung hindi ka pala talaga entitled, ginawa mo lang income prior year, tapos binalik mo this year, then you're entitled naman to deduction. Okay? So that's tax benefit rule. Okay? Now, the next theory is the economic theory. So dito, pag meron ka ng proprietary, so anything that benefits the person is taxable. Okay? Stock options, the difference between the fair value and the option price constitutes additional income to the employee at the time of exercise. Are you familiar with stock options? If not, then let me just tell you an example. Let's say you're an employee of Jollibee. So you're an officer sa Jollibee. So dahil naka-10 taon ka na sa Jollibee, sabi ng Jollibee, I'm giving you stock options. Okay, ang ibig sabihin nun, meron kang option na bumili ng shares ng Jollibee for 100 pesos per share. Okay? Pero take note, sa market, ang fair value ay 200 pesos. Okay? So, in-exercise mo na, binili mo na, no? Nabili mo lang ng 100. Eh, pag binenta mo pala yung hawak mo na shares, 200 pesos per share mo mabibenta. Okay, so what do you think? Yung benefit mo ba na additional 100 is taxable sa iyo or hindi? What do you think? So that's taxable, that's right. Okay? So under the doctrine of economic benefit. And if it happened sa iyo na meron kang ganun, ang laki ng gain mo nun kasi that's 100 pesos per share. E paano kung binigyan ka ng 1,000 options? E di you realized a gain of 100,000 pesos. Okay? So that's economic benefit theory. Okay? Then severance test, separation of something of exchangeable value. Income requires realization of gain. So increase in value could not be taxed, could only be taxed when the disposition of the property already occurred. Okay? So yan yung another test. So I think we have discussed it already. No? Now, income from whatever source. Ito, lahat ng income ay taxable unless exempt. Whether voluntarily or involuntarily produced. Yan. Okay? So, tandaan nyo class, pag nagtatalo kayo, in reality, no, nangyayari talaga to. Kung ang income ay taxable or exempt, ang pinaka-safe na posisyon ay taxable. Okay? So, kasi lahat ng income ay taxable. It is only exempt when it is exempt. At para masabi na exempt yan, may legal basis dapat yan. At very clear, dun sa legal basis na yon, na talagang yan yung tinutukoy na income na exempt. Eh, usually, pag tinatanong ko, taxable ba to or exempt? Ang position ko, taxable. Kasi kung ang position mo ay exempt, you have to justify pa. You have to pinpoint pa the legal basis kung bakit siya exempt. At kung wala kang maipakita na legal basis na siya exempt, then therefore it is taxable. Okay? I remember the former BIR commissioner at nung time ni Pinoy, si Miss Kim Hinares. So talagang masigasig mangolekta ng tax yun. At lahat na lang taxable. So hindi mo naman siya masisi kasi lahat naman talaga taxable. So as you earn an income, you benefit from it, and therefore that's taxable. You want to say it's exempt? So you have to cite, to tell me the legal basis for it. Okay? So yeah. Now, all events test. So kailangan daw yung right to income or liability is already fixed. Parang accrual basis to class. And the amount is reasonably accurate to determine. So kung establish na ang right, na fixed na yan, and yung amount naman determinable na, then therefore that's taxable na. Accrual basis. All events test. Okay? Let me give you an illustration. Now, Triple Y Corporation engaged the services of the Manananggol law firm in 2020 to defend the corporation's title over a property used in the business. For the legal services rendered, and rendered na siya in 2021, the law firm billed the corporation only in 2022. So the corporation duly paid. Okay, so yung corporation claimed this expense as a deduction from gross income sa 2022 return, because the exact amount was determined only in 2022. So tama ba sila na 2022 lang na claim? Okay. What could be the reason? Remember, the legal service was rendered in 2021. Pero na-bill sila 2022. Okay? Sige, si Dio Mano.
Ano
Please.
po, sir?
Sabi,
No po. Kasi po yung expense po is dapat deductible po siya sa year na nag-comply po siya sa all events test. So dapat po yung deduction po is dapat na-claim nung 2021, hindi po nung 2022.
okay, so sige, let's check. Okay. Remember, na-bill siya 2022 lang. No? So let's find out. Okay, let's find out. So ang suggested na answer, hindi, no? Kasi the expense is deductible kung kailan siya nag-comply sa all events test. So tama yung answer ni Nicole. So the test is considered met, liability is already fixed. Okay? So ng 2021. Hindi naman kailangan kasi exact amount, di ba? Kailangan lang naman ma-determine. No? So, syempre may idea naman sila kung magkano yun, di ba? So as long as they can make an estimate, reasonable naman yung estimate, so pwede nang i-accrue yun. No? So thank you, Nicole, that's correct. Okay? So the claim of the expense should have been made in 2021 rather than 2022. Okay? So all events test was met in 2021. Okay? So I hope, at this time, it's now clear with you the definition of income tax. It's a tax on your yearly profit. Okay? So it's an excise tax. Kailan ka may income as opposed to kailan may capital. And income is the one taxable. At kailan yan taxable? Okay? As long as it's realized, accrued, ganon, no? So then you can apply the 6 test. So to determine kung taxable na ba or hindi. Okay? Now at this point, let's look at the different tax systems. The first system is a global system, unitary. Okay, so lahat ng income, lahat ng deductions, subject to a single tax rate. Second, schedular. Different types of incomes are subject to different sets of graduated or flat income tax rates. Then, semi-schedular or semi-global. So some types of income is global, so other types of income is schedular. Sa Pilipinas, ano sa tingin nyo ang ginagamit natin na system under our income tax law? So that's right. Okay, Michaela, we follow both. So in the Philippines, it's a combination of both systems. Sa individuals nga lang, kunwari mga empleyado, employees, no? Individual taxpayers, schedular. So meaning, there's a set of graduated rates. Ang tendency, mas malaki ang taxable income mo, mas mataas ang tax rate mo. Progressive siya. Which in accordance with the Constitution. Sa corporation naman, it's more of global. You have single tax rate, which is either 20%, but in general, it's 25%. Regardless of the amount of taxable profit na meron ka. 10 million, 100 million, 1 billion, 2 billion, you apply single tax rate. That's global. No? So, it's generally 25%. Okay? But there's actually a mix. Pag napansin nyo to sa susunod nating module, it's really a mix. Now, features of the Philippine income tax law. It's a direct tax. So, hindi pwedeng, kunwari, grocery ka, pinasa mo yung VAT sa customer mo, tapos nilagay mo rin sa invoice, pinasa mo rin yung income tax. So, hindi pwede yun. It's not really, really allowed. Okay? Progressive siya, that's based on ability to pay. The more income you earn, the more tax you pay. It's a comprehensive system. I'm very proud of our tax system kasi it has really evolved to address different circumstances. No? Complex nga lang, pero pag in-analyze mo naman, maganda talaga yung sistema ng tax natin sa Pilipinas. Well, implementation is another story. No? Basta the law itself is well-crafted. Okay? We follow yung system ng US. Okay? So, more of that, more of US tax system. Okay? So semi-schedular or semi-global. No? It's a national tax. So let me ask you, class, sinong nangongolekta ng income tax? LGU or BIR? So BIR, no? LGU will not assess you for income tax. It's a national tax, not a local tax. Okay? Although, marami namang local taxes, so we will discuss them sa ibang subject, next subject niya, next semester. It's an excise tax, okay? I-discuss ko na sa inyo to fully, no? Criteria in imposing income tax. Citizenship, yan. Residence, the source. Or should we say the situs, no, of taxation. Okay? Parang ganito lang, no? Para madali niyong makuha to. Yung isang tao, meron siyang na-earn na income or profit. Ang Pilipinas ba, ang government ba ng Pilipinas ay may karapatan mag-impose dyan ng income tax dun sa taong yun, sa earnings ng taong yun? Well, the answer is, depende kung citizen siya ng Pilipinas, kung resident siya ng Pilipinas, or kung dito niya kinita sa Pilipinas. E paano kung yung taong yun ay German na resident at kinita niya yun sa labas ng Pilipinas? Then therefore, the Philippine government has no right na i-tax yung income na yun. Okay? So, ganun siya. No? Pero paano kung German siya, residing siya in Germany, pero nag-invest siya sa government bonds ng Pilipinas. Tapos yung government bonds na yun is denominated in Philippine pesos. Ano sa tingin nyo, class? Taxable na or hindi pa rin? So, very good. Taxable na yun. Although hindi pumasa sa citizenship principle, sa residence, hindi rin. Dito siya pumasa sa source. The source kasi is the Philippines. So the Philippines has the right, all the right, to impose income tax doon sa income niya. Okay? Yeah. So next, types of Philippine income tax. Kala nyo, class, dahil ang subject natin, income tax, we'll be talking about a single tax. In the Philippines, there are different types of income tax. First is the graduated income tax on individuals. Second, regular corporate income tax. Third is minimum corporate income tax. By the way, the number 2 is abbreviated as RCIT. Number 3 is called MCIT. Number 4, preferential rates. Yun, special tax rates ito. Kunwari, eskwelahan. Iba ang tax ng eskwelahan. Gross income tax. Capital gains tax, final income tax, fringe benefits tax, Then we have branch profit remittance tax. Okay, so these are the 9 different Philippine income tax. And I want you to memorize them because the rules for each of them are unique. Justin, you have a question? You're raising your hand. Okay. So memorize the 9, no? The 9. Different rules are applied for graduated income tax on individuals. Different rules for RSIT, MSIT, preferential rates, gross income tax, capital gains tax, final income tax, fringe benefits tax, branch profit remittance tax. Alam nyo, class, kaya ako pinapamemorize yan sa inyo. Because, ganito, naguguluhan talaga ng sobra sa pag-aaral ng income tax ng isang tao. Kasi yung mga rules na unique for each of these types of income tax ay nagkakahalo-halo, nagkakamingle-mingle. Okay? And that's really not a good situation for you. No? Sabihin mo, bakit yung individual may graduated tax pero may final tax? Eh, dalawa kasi sila talaga. May graduated tax, then may final tax. Eh, bakit yung individual nagbayad pa ng CGT or capital gains tax? Because CGT is really different. Okay? Sa corporations naman. Hindi porket sinabi mong corporation, yun na yung tax, isa lang. Okay? Iba-iba pa. Sa corporation, pwedeng regular yan. Pwedeng minimum. Pwedeng preferential. Pwedeng gross. Pwedeng CGT din. Pwedeng final tax din. O kung branch man yan, could be branch profit remittance tax. Okay? So the challenge is this, no? Recognize, number one, recognize that there are these different types of income taxes that have different set of rules for each of them. So you recognize, di ba? Then you memorize dapat. Then the challenge pa is to know those rules. Okay? At kung kailan mag-a-apply yan. For example, sa corporation, ang nag-a-apply, RSIT. Kung hindi man, MSIT. But kailan mag-a-apply yung MSIT, kailan mag-a-apply yung RSIT? Okay? So you have to know the rule kung kailan yun. Okay? So class, I'm telling you, no? Para hindi kayo maguluhan, do not mix up these taxes, the rules for these taxes. Okay? Ang rules kasi nila, i-apply mo sa kanila separately because each of them is unique. Okay? They have their own unique tax rules. And sa mga next modules natin, doon natin naalamin kung kailan sila kung ano-ano yung mga rules na yun. Okay? So, when you talk about income tax, you're not talking about a single income tax. You're talking about 9 different income taxes. And it depends kung individual yan, corporation, or what. No? So, am I clear? Am I clear? Have I made my point na importanteng i-memorize nyo to? I-recognize nyo sila? And pag may rule kang inaral alamin mo kung para siya kanino. Hindi yung may rule kang inaral, nalaman, then baka isipin mo para sa lahat yun. Hindi siya gano'n. No? Kaya it's really going to be confusing if you don't distinguish each of the 9 here. So this subject is about income taxation, but we're not talking about a single income tax in this subject. We're talking about 9 different income taxes that have different unique rules for each of them. Okay? Okay, so the kinds of taxpayers, ito pa yung magulo class eh. Iba-iba na nga yung income tax, iba-iba pa yung taxpayers. Okay, so alamin natin. Taxpayer is any person subject to tax imposed by Title 2 of the tax code. So this person could be individual, yan, corporation, partnership, estates, or trust. Yan. Okay? So sila ang mga different taxpayers. Okay? So ito sila. Individuals, corporations, estates and trust, partnerships, co-partnerships. So sa individuals, citizen ba siya? Or alien? Or special class? Kung citizen naman siya, resident ba siya or non-resident citizens? Okay? Kung alien, no? Resident pa or non-resident? Pag non-resident, engaged ba in trade or business in the Philippines? Or not engaged in trade or business in the Philippines? Isa na lang ang special class ngayon, which is minimum wage earner. Dati, meron pa tong nasa embassy, nasa Asian Development Bank, tinanggal na yon ng trade law. And what remains a special class of individual taxpayer is minimum wage earner. Okay? So yan. Sa corporation naman class, pwedeng domestic, foreign corporation, pag foreign, resident, or non-resident. Pag domestic, walang resident, non-resident. Automatic, a domestic is fully resident yan. Okay? Estates and trust. If you don't have an idea what this is all about, we will discuss na lang sa separate module niya. Partnership could be general business partnership or professional, GPP. Then we have co-ownership. I hope you can recognize now bakit complex yung topic na to or yung subject na to. You know, when we first met, di ba, I asked you, anong mga expectation nyo? The subject is difficult, di ba? And that's really true. Because you're dealing with how many types of taxes? 9. 9 different types of income taxes that have different rules. And this 9 could apply to these different taxpayers, di ba? Individual, corporation, okay? Tapos i-discuss pa natin, ano-ano ang mga income? Ano ang gross income? Then ano ang mga deductibles? Okay? So that's why this subject is really complex. But I hope with this frame of mindset ba? No? Mindset. You can clearly see yung different rules. And therefore, you have proper frame of mindset. Okay? So, para hindi kayo maguluhan. No? So, yan lang naman yun. No? Kaya naguguluhan sa pag-aaral ng income tax kasi ang nangyayari, nagiging sabog-sabog. Rule ni ganto, rule ni MC, rule ni RC. So, hindi na na-recognize na iba-iba pala yun. No? Then you have these different taxpayers. Okay? Yan. So, next, taxpayer, i-connect natin plus sa tax base. O iba naman ngayon, no? Kino-connect naman natin ngayon sa tax base. Tax base, no? At i-connect pa natin sa taxable na income. Okay? Notice. Anong napansin nyo, class? Dito sa tax base. How do you summarize itong tax base na to? How do you summarize yung tax base na to? In relation to the different taxpayers. Anyone? How do you summarize para madaling ma-memorize? May dalawang klase ng tax base. Taxable income and gross income. How do you memorize this fast? Para madaling ma-memorize. How do you summarize? In general, ano ang tax base? Anyone? In general, ano ang tax base? Taxable income or gross income? In general, what's the tax base? Taxable income or gross income? Very good. In general, it's taxable income. For all taxpayers, except for two taxpayers, dalawang taxpayers. Non-resident alien not engaged in trade or business, and non-resident foreign corporation. Ng tax base nila ay gross income. So I hope that's okay. How about yung last column? How do you summarize ito? Within the Philippines versus without the Philippines, or outside. Okay, so in general, that's correct, Christine. In general, ang taxable lang ay yung income within the Philippines. Except kung ang taxpayers ay resident citizen at domestic corporation. Because silang dalawa, worldwide ang taxation. So in general, ang tinatax lang sa Pilipinas, ang income na ang source ay sa Pilipinas. Except if you are a resident citizen, okay, or a domestic corporation. Tinatax ka on your worldwide income. Kaya kung OFW ka, yung income that you earn abroad, hindi siya tinatax sa Pilipinas. Dahil you are a non-resident citizen. At ang taxable lang sa'yo, yung na-earn mo within the Philippines. So, kunwari, meron kang apartment dito sa Pilipinas. So, as an OFW, ang source nun ay sa Pilipinas. Yung rent na na-earn ng apartment na yun. So, taxable yun. Pero yung salary mo abroad, hindi yun taxable sa Pilipinas. Okay? So, yan. Yung estate and trust, GPP, they follow individual sa corporation. So, whatever their classification may be. No? So, gross income versus taxable income. Gross income is income from whatever source. Okay? Then taxable income is gross income minus deductions. Okay, so taxable income is net income. Matanong ko lang kayo, class, para malinaw lang tayo, ha? Sa tingin nyo, ang gross income ba at sales ay parehas? Yes or no? Ang gross income ba at sales ay parehas? No. Kasi, sales or revenue, di ba? Para mag-arrive ka sa gross income, ima-minus mo pa yung cost of sales. This is your gross income. So we're talking about this. Not sales or revenue. Then, you have your allowable deductions. I'm not using the term expenses. I'm using the term allowable deductions. Kasi hindi porket expense yan sa accounting, allowable siyang i-deduct for tax purposes. So I'm using the term allowable deductions. Then the result is taxable income. Ito naman siya. So I hope the two are defined differently. No? So ulitin ko lang, no, para malinaw. In general, ano ang tax base natin? Gross income or taxable income? Taxable. Except for non-resident alien not engaged in trade or business and non-resident foreign corporation. Okay? So again. And don't forget, when you talk about gross income, it's not the sales, but it's the gross profit. So you have to deduct from the sales the cost of sales. Okay? Now, classification of income as the source. The gross income could be within the Philippines. So, ganun din yung taxable income. But they could be without the Philippines. Or they could be partly within or partly without. What you have to do is this. Just learn which income are considered as income within. And all else are considered income without. So sa module natin, ang sinama ko lang, ano yung mga income within? Okay, the Philippines. So yun lang yung i-memorize nyo. Then naturally, then you'll know which income are without the Philippines. Okay? So interest, kailan siya income within? If obligations ng Philippine residents or corporate or otherwise. So ultimately, the situs of interest income is the residence of the debtor. Okay? Kaya sabi ko sa inyo kanina, kung government bonds yan, within yan, kasi government is within the Philippines. Dividends. Pag domestic corporation, it's income within. Pag foreign, kung at least 50% ng gross income niya, so for the last 3 years, okay? So at least 50%, yeah, income within siya. So definitely, pag domestic corp, within yan. Pero pag foreign, depende sa gross income niya. If 50% of that ay within the Philippines, then therefore, it's within the Philippines. Services, kung performed in the Philippines. So as a rule, the situs of compensation, okay, kasi services to, ay the place of performance of the services. Rentals and royalties. Property interest located in the Philippines. So pag located sila sa Philippines, then the rentals and royalties are income within the Philippines. So as a rule, the situs of rental income is the place where the property is located. The situs of royalty income is where the rights are exercised. Real property. So kung located sa Pilipinas, it's income within the Philippines. So the situs of income from sale of real property is the place or where the realty is located. So domestic corporation stock. This is within the Philippines, regardless where sold. Okay? So pag personal property, depende kung manufacturing or trading. So kung manufactured within, sold within, the income within siya. Kung produced within, but sold outside, so partly. Yeah. Ganun din to. Sa trading, kung saan siya nabenta. Okay, that's the situs. Are we good with the different situs? So just learn them, okay? Be familiar with them. Okay, so illustration number 4, situs of income. The first one is interest income from deposits in a foreign bank. So what is this? Within or without the Philippines? That's the first one. What's the source of the first income? Anyone? Okay, so this is without. Yung pangalawa ay domestic bonds. Domestic, within. Royalties from books published in the Philippines. It's also within. Rent income from properties abroad. Yan. Although yung lease contract executed in the Philippines. This still without. Location, di ba? Where the property is located. Professional fees for services rendered in the Philippines. Yan. Rendered in the Philippines. Okay? Although ang para sa non-resident client. So what do you think of the last one? Okay, so the last one is within. Kung saan na-render ang service, dun yung situs niya. Okay, so very good. Camila, you have a question?
Good morning po, sir.
Morning.
May question lang po ako dun sa may item number 1 po kanina sa illustration 4. Paano po siya naging without yung interest income from deposits in foreign bank? Bale, sino po yung debtor dito? Tama po ba?
Yung
Dun po nakabase? Sa
Correct.
saan po naka-resident yung debtor?
Yung debtor is the bank.
Okay po. Thank you po.
Okay, sige. No problem. Di ba pag deposit, as depositor, you're actually a creditor. And the bank that has custody of your deposit is actually a debtor. Good. No? Sige. Now, the last part, unallocated expenses. What you just do is allocate, no? Those which cannot be entirely attributable sa income within or without. So, ina-allocate lang siya. So, using the formula below. So, income without over as a percentage of your worldwide income. So, pag minultiply mo yan sa hindi na-allocate na expense, then you get the deductions from income without. Kasi syempre, you can only deduct yung expense kung saan siya related na income. So, deductions related to income within can be deducted sa income within. Okay? And for income without, dun sa income without. At pag hindi siya ma-attribute, then therefore, you do allocation. So, percentage of income without out of the worldwide. Okay? So, yun, makukuha mo yung deductions from income without. Then, percentage ng income within over your worldwide income out of the unallocated expense, then you'll get the income, deductions from income within. Okay? Okay, so yan, no? So we're done with module number 2. Okay? I was planning to discuss the first part of module number 3. No? But unfortunately, I started the class late. That's why hanggang dito lang muna yung discussion natin. But I think it's a blessing in disguise na rin dahil you really have to memorize itong module 2 para hindi mag-suffer yung module 3 and the next modules. No? So we're done for today's class. Okay? So I'll be seeing you sa next week. No? I think we have good pacing naman kahit na wala tayong klase last week. So at least we finished 2 modules already. Okay? So let's have a class picture now. You may turn on your cameras now. Who's gonna take the picture? Remy, ikaw na lang.
Sige po, sir. Ako na po. Smile po. Wait lang po, isa pa po. Okay na po. Thank you.
Thank you. So I hope you learned a thing or two this morning. See you next week.
Thank you po.
Thank you.